everybody, I am Jarrett Ross, the Genie Vlogger, and welcome back to another Professional Genealogist Reacts. On today's video, I will be reacting to I Took a DNA Test from ibx2cat. Now, this is a channel that I am familiar with. It's a geography channel. From what I can tell, I don't really know his ancestry, but he seems European, most likely Northwestern European. I think he has a British accent. I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong. So not quite exactly sure what to expect, but I imagine it'll be interesting because with geography channels, they usually have an understanding of population flows, and so I'm always interested to kind of hear what their interpretations might be because they might kind of understand that this might be why they're seeing what they're seeing. I'm not going to say anything else, but before we do jump into the video, please be sure to give this a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe and click that bell for notifications on future videos. With all that fun stuff said, let's go ahead and watch that video.
Hello, I'm ibx2cat and welcome back to the second channel video. Today I have a weird one-off video because I decided to get DNA tested. That's right, that's a weird start to a video, but there is a website called 23 and...
Okay, starting off, I didn't realize this, but this is an old version. So this video is from December 23rd, 2016. So these results are 6 years old and probably very different. I'll have to look and see if he did an update video. I don't know if he did. If he did, comment below with that video. But yeah, let's continue. It's so just funny, like seeing how that old look is. You can just tell so well.
And me, it's like an online like DNA test thing, and it's set up by the founder of Google's ex-wife. Don't ask me why that gave it legitimacy. But basically, she had like a weird sales pitch of like, people should know more about their health, so I'm going to make a website and test them. And yeah, basically, I went and did a test. First, the most important bit, which is the bit I was most interested in, which is the ancestral composition, because he can see it by chromosome, because the way a DNA test works, as I vaguely understand, is it loosely works out a little bit for your chromosomes, so it can work out where they're from. And yeah, so as you can see, there's 23 or 22 in X, whatever that means. Maybe that's bad, maybe that's good, whatever. But yeah, basically, there's 23 chromosomes, and it can like kind of combine those results to work out where you're roughly from. And I always thought these maps would be like kind of a bit bogus. The one I saw just said like 90% European when I saw someone else. But as it turns out, yeah, it's pretty accurate, because if you don't know, one of my grandparents, therefore about 25% of me, give or take, is from Sri Lanka, the island off the coast of India. And the thing actually...
Yeah, I guess I didn't really notice right off the bat because it's the old result, so I don't quite interpret it as quickly. But yeah, he's got that 20.3% Asian. So and just like he's explaining, a grandparent would be about 25%. So what could be happening here, why he's only getting 20.3%, is recombination isn't perfect, and you don't actually get exactly 25% from your grandparents. You get 50% from each of your parents. But when it comes to your grandparents, you could get 20.3% from one grandparent and then 29.7% from the other grandparent. So that's what I'm guessing is happening here.
It got 20.3% South Asian. So clearly, it actually knows what it's doing. Or it looked me up and it knows it that way. But yeah, still, yeah, so 20.3% South Asian is the kind of big overall group. It's got a little bit of, Eastern Native European American in there. It's got a little bit of Southeast Asian, that's right, and 1.4% Philippines / Vietnam / all those other countries there, which is intriguing to me. Got a little bit of East Asian, and then broadly East Asian and Native American. So, I mean, I can probably argue I'm very slightly Native American and like...
No, that's just a misreading because of the close genetic connection between Asia and Native Americans.
Go gamble on some reserves or something. That's how that works, right? Anyway, so yeah, as well as being 20.3% South Asian and roughly 25%, it's I think it's like 23% roughly Asian. I am 77% European, as it turns out. So that's no surprise. I mean, you look at me.
It is really, really interesting looking at how. Oh, this is actually. I just realized this is just the regional resolution. So I don't know if this this older version of 23andMe had the more nuanced breakdown, but nowadays it's much more nuanced. So, and actually I really do wonder if he has a more recent video.
I'm like, you probably couldn't even work out the Asian. You're like, you are so white. So like, look, this is the skin tone I am. I'm a very white person. I know something video games. But yeah, basically I'm 77% European, which is pretty predictable. But what's interesting to me is the breakup of this. Only something like 50. Wait, I think maybe it's speculative. But yeah, basically I'm only like a decent amount of that actually is straight from Britain, Ireland, which is where I'm from. I think I'm like meant to be like 50% English and like 25% Irish, but apparently just 25.4. Then there's 3% French and German in there. No idea where that comes from. A little bit of Scandinavian, which everybody loves a bit of Scandinavian in them. Some broadly Northwestern European, which I assume just means UK, but not able to pin it down close enough.
Beyond just UK. I mean, I think that's what they're kind of covering, but broadly Northwestern European. For me, I would include Scandinavia. I would include France, Germany, the lowland country, or the low countries. I always call them the lowland countries. The low countries, so, Belgium, Denmark, Netherlands. But he's basically got the idea. It's saying that it's from these general areas, but we can't really pinpoint it.
And then the rest is where things get weird, because there is some Iberian, which is Spain and Portugal, if you don't know. I actually had been told that I had like a Portuguese great something. So apparently it got that. Some Sardinian, which is a very bizarre specific group to get. And then some broadly Southern European. And in fact, if I click this little box right here, you can see every single population you can get. Apparently 0% Ashkenazi Jewish.
Oh my gosh, he just said Ashkenazi. Ashkenazi, not Ashkenazi. Jeez, that sounds like a wow. Yeah, okay, let's continue.
Apparently 0% of that. Apparently 0% Balkan. Apparently 0.
So this, I feel like when you look at all of the reference groups, it kind of gives a better idea of what's going on here, because this shows you how they're breaking everything down. And then when you think about all of the countries that aren't like that you wouldn't think are defined within this, it's like, okay, well, what is in each one? Basically, you're getting an idea of how they're trying to define every single population group. And so for like the people that might be like, let's say you're Czechoslovakian, you're like, well, why aren't they defining me as Czechoslovakian? And you look and you're like, oh, well, they don't even define that in any sort of way. So why would I expect that? At best, it would be lumped somewhere in this broadly European. You could maybe be Eastern European. You could also be broadly Northwestern European. Czechoslovakia is kind of like right there on the cusp of it. So I'm sure there's been population migration back and forth, so there's connection both ways. So it becomes a matter of, where do you find those expected ancestries within the way they define it. But then again, this is the older version, so it's much more nuanced now, but it's still kind of the same thing.
0% Italian, 0% of lots of things, because that's how DNA works. Anyway, so yeah, I was really intrigued by this, but this is just the start of where the DNA test goes, because we can also go check out some health stuff. Honestly, it's really scary because some of them are like locked down. So as you can see, I've got a typical risk for pretty much everything, which is like, But if you look at the, there's actually 3 they lock down because they're the ones that like, kind of like from House, how I think her name was 23 or 13 or something. She had Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. I don't know. I haven't watched House in a while, but like she didn't want to know. It's kind of like that, where they're like, you don't have to know this stuff, but I can find it out if I want to. And I haven't honestly entirely decided it, and I figured like doing it on the internet's probably a bit weird, but let's do one just to see how it works. So we click, yep, I'm pretty sure. Give me the results. What am I? Okay, I have to opt in. Okay. Well, I guess we won't do that then. So let's go to drug response, my response to various drugs, which is kind of interesting, because as you can see, I thought they were all going to be typical again, but as you can see, mostly typical, but then I've got a reduced metabolism for sulfonylurea, which I think is like a really specific drug for diabetes, if I'm not mistaken. The more interesting thing to me is the inherited conditions and the traits and stuff. So we'll go to like traits first, because what your DNA can tell you is whether you're more likely or less likely to have certain things. Alcohol flush reaction does not flush, which is true. I don't like go bright pink. Actually, I think I've done it like once, but you know how I think it's called like Asian glow. Usually like lots of people go flush and stuff. As you can see, little or no flushing reaction to alcohol. However, interestingly enough, like they don't say it directly, but if you look at the 3 types of genes you can have when it comes to alcohol, these ones are like unlikely to become dependent on alcohol, somewhat less likely to become dependent on it. And it's like, oh, well, I guess I can become dependent on alcohol. Isn't that wonderful? So yeah, that's the first one right here. Bitter taste perception, can taste bitter. I've confirmed that many times. Well, so before we go for the intake, because I think there might be one more, inherited conditions. I don't think we can do that. Oh, no, we can do it. Okay. So we've only got one of these. Variant present. That means I have a higher chance of hearing loss. So I think that's like a genetic one, like a at birth one. So let's hope that's not a thing. Everything else is just variant absent, which is good news. You don't want to have any of this stuff. So good news there. Anyway, the final thing you can do with this website is work out people who might be related to you who have also used the website. So I think there's only like a few thousand people on it right now or something like that. So it's probably not going to be too useful right now, but it can still work.
Yeah, now the database is way bigger. Oh, wow, he's showing matches. Okay. That's pretty cool.
Work out down to like the 3rd to 4th cousin who's
Yeah.
just some random male.
So it looks like he doesn't have that great of matches because the closest is 1.05% across 3 segments, which 1.05% is like 74, 75 centimorgans probably. So that's not the greatest match, but depending on his ancestry, but it might be one that he could figure out. But yeah, a lot of these distant matches. So
That doesn't even have a location. Then look at the next person, Georgia Westenine Wright, from the female 1967, somewhere in those places. Then she's a third to fourth cousin.
I wonder if that's the actual person's name, because that's technically, it's not a good thing to technically put their name out there in a video like that.
0.7% match, and isn't that kind of cool? And it can do all of this sort of stuff, and it can't just, not only can it do it by like this. Look, Evan Church, he's my third to fifth cousin, which it sounds ridiculous to have so many third to fifths, but because family sizes a couple of generations back were so big, I think there's like thousands of possible people. But yeah.
Especially if you're considering third to fifth, in the fact that fifth cousins, you're probably looking at a whole bunch of them. Basically, the way to understand it, with first cousins, you share grandparents. Second cousins, you share great-grandparents. Third cousins, you share second great-grandparents. Fourth cousins, you share third great-grandparents. Fifth cousins, fourth great-grandparents. So fourth great-grandparents, for anyone that's my age, are going to be people that were born at the end of the 1700s, beginning of the 1800s. So like for me, I know a lot of my fourth great-grandparents were either born in the 1790s or literally like 1802, 1803, or sometimes 1810s. And when you get that far back and then trace it forward to find out how many living descendants there are, oh boy, you can usually find thousands. I think for me, I've checked a few of them on my fourth great grandparents. I know like my fourth great grandparents, Abraham Nunes Vaz and Sarah Lopez Diaz, they had 2,000. They have 2,000 descendants that we know about, and there's probably like 800 that are alive, and that's just what we know about. So I'm sure there's dozens, if not hundreds, of more that I don't know about. So, these tests really do bring that out, that your family is huge, especially as you start to get out there, trace it up and then trace it back down, you find a lot.
There's all these potentially related people, and if I wanted to reach out to cousins and stuff, which would be a bit weird, honestly, I could do that. And there's even a map, I think.
Yeah, see, that's from a standpoint of just reaching out like, hey, I'm your cousin, nice to meet you. It is kind of weird because it's like, well, what? Okay, cool, we're connecting. But for a lot of people, such as myself, when people reach out to you through 23andMe, the goal is to figure out how are we related and then learn more about that shared ancestry. So, I know some people are kind of weirded out by getting contacted by genetic matches, especially the, well, I don't really like my family that I know. Why would I want more family? Well, it's not like really getting more family. It's more of finding someone to talk with about your shared ancestry. So kind of like a weird, distant family thing, but I don't know.
It's like be like, oh yeah, so I live near London. If you don't know, let's look nearby me and let's see where my nearest people are. So we got a male fourth cousin from Radlett. Oh yeah, Radlett, so everyone's favorite place. Jeez. And we got a
0.22%. That is gonna be, that's gonna be like 16 centimorgans, 17 centimorgans. That's probably going to be more distant than a fourth cousin. Fourth cousin's probably the closest it could be, but it could be much more distant and probably is.
Someone from St. Albans who is a fourth cousin too. That's pretty cool, actually. The fact that let's click over here as well. We got a fourth cousin from Cambridge as well. We got what is this? A fifth cousin from Ireland.
Now, what I'd be interested to see him do, I kind of want to go back and see on the map, were there a lot of dots over South Asia? Because if he has that grandparent,
I live near London. If you don't know, let's look nearby me. And we got
because that would be the ones that would be really interesting to see if he could actually find that, because he has one very specific line of his family that is traced to South Asia. So that gives him an opportunity to learn a little bit more about that ancestry. And so getting genetic matches on here would be really interesting, especially because I don't think a lot of people from South Asia test with 23andMe, especially at this time.
Someone from St. Albans who is a fourth cousin too. That's pretty cool, actually. The fact that
I think we watched.
What is this? A fifth cousin from Ireland, Central Bedfordshire. I don't know if Ireland is in Central Bedfordshire, but still pretty cool. We got 13 from up north somewhere. Oh yeah, we got a lot of people from around there. I don't know, because the thing is because my family, like, they're all from different places. No one's actually from where I live near London. Like, the actual, like, people that might have any form of relation is, like, I have no idea how to work it out. Like, maybe over here, I think. Okay, my point being, with all of this, I think I've been going on long enough about my DNA, is that I am a person from... this confirmed lots of things I knew. Okay, so 2.4% of me is Neanderthal, and the average user is 2.7%, which puts me in the top 30, or in the 13th percentile. So top 87% is that? Pretty cool. Pretty cool. And if I was a Nigerian, I'd be in the top 1%. Or if I was in the Japanese, I'd be pretty bad. Okay, whatever. Point being here is that I am... Yeah, I'm an average Japanese person, isn't it? In terms of Neanderthal DNA. Isn't that lovely? Anyway, I hope you did enjoy today's video. 23andMe is the website. I can't say I recommend it. Like, I don't think it's value for money. I just think it's fun, and I figured this video would be kind of worth it. Let me know what you think with the comments down below. I have Geography of 2cat coming out tomorrow and stuff, so I'll see you all then. Bye.
All right. That was a pretty decent video. I was hoping for a little bit more discussion from him about, you know, migration and stuff. It's definitely cool to see how the site's changed since then, and especially the expansion of their admixture, the nuance of the readings. Although, unfortunately, 23andMe hasn't put as much focus into their ancestry stuff as they do their medical stuff. So if you're more of the person that really likes the medical stuff and that's really what you're more interested in, the health and the traits, and not quite as much of the ancestry and connecting and expanding your tree, then 23andMe is probably a better suited test for you. But for people with you know, looking to expand their family trees and do genealogy and connect with matches and stuff, 23andMe isn't quite as good, unfortunately. But I would honestly be interested to see his family tree, and if he was interested in being on YouTuber Family Trees, I would love to have him as a guest. You know, his South Asian ancestry, that's something that, you know, would be really interesting to see. He'd also talked about hearing of a Portuguese ancestor, and then he did get some of that Southern European and Iberian readings, which could be indicative of a Portuguese ancestor. So it'd be interesting to see, could we find that? For anyone that's interested in connecting with your genetic matches and figuring out how you're related so that you're able to expand your family tree, there are a lot of different tools out there that can actually help you with that. And I actually discussed them in this video right here. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You can also click right about here if you'd like to subscribe. It is completely free to do so. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GenieVlogger. I'm the Genie Vlogger. See you in my next video.